NFL fans, what is going on? Welcome back to the J All Day NFL Show. Today we're going to do a second round mock draft. After round one last night, a lot of crazy stuff happened. Some trades, some head scratcher picks, some awesome picks. Let's get into round two. Browns are up on the board. They got 33 and 36. The way this board played out, pretty interesting, right? So, look, they got Mason Graham. Went D-line, traded back, got a Lions Haul picks from the Jags. I love that for the Browns. For the Jags, not so much. All right, so where am I going to go here? So I know that the Texans and the Titans will not go quarterback here. So this pick will not be a quarterback. Mike Green's on the board. Will Johnson's on the board. Luther Burden on the board, a wide receiver. I think Luther Burden could be the way to go. But you know what, guys? I'm going to surprise everyone and go my favorite wide receiver left on the board here. I'm going Jaden Higgins to the Browns at 33 overall. Texans, you're up on the board. Your picks so far, no picks, right? So they got to go offensive line here, right? When we take a look at the way this roster is constructed, they're going to take the best tackle on the board, and in my opinion, that's Aireontae Ersery from Minnesota. Big guy, 77 overall grade. This year, 84 grade. Last year, 6'6", 330. Perfect left tackle size. Ersery goes to the Texans at 34. Now, Titans fans, you're up on the board at 35, right? They got Cam Ward with the number one pick. Mike Green is on the board here. It's going to be really hard to pass up Mike Green. They could go wide receiver. Luther Burden is on the board. That would make a lot of sense for them. But man, they could really use an edge rusher. But they really need wide receiver help. They got okay wide receivers, right? Just okay. I think Mike Green's just too good. Titans go Mike Green at 35 overall. Get the sack monster. All right, Browns, now you're on the board here. We went Mason Graham, Jaden Higgins on the board at 36. Now, we're drafting a quarterback. Shedeur Sanders, your fall stops here. You got a great outside wide receiver in Jaden Higgins. They added a great front seven. They could go Will Howard or Milroe if they don't like Shedeur Sanders, but they're picking a quarterback here. Who knows who it's going to be? But I think it's Shedeur Sanders. I like that pick here. Now, Raiders fans, you're up. You got your man Ashton Jeanty at 6. That was pretty chalky. I think most of us thought that's where Jeanty was going to go. Pete Carroll gets his bell cow back. I like that selection here. We could go wide receiver. We can go interior defensive line, cornerback. Will Johnson's on the board. Their cornerback room is not that good. Will Johnson goes to the Raiders at 37. Now, Pats fans, you're on the board. You got Will Campbell with the 4th pick overall. You're up at 38. You need a wide receiver so bad. Luther Burden III goes to the Patriots. So, where I went earlier, Jaden Higgins. I think he's a true X wide receiver that the Browns need. But these picks could flip. If Burden goes to the Browns and then Higgins goes to the Patriots, that wouldn't surprise me at all whatsoever, guys. Now, the Bears are on the board. They went Colston Loveland. I actually really like that pick. Some Bears fans are hating on it. Yo, trust me, Colston Loveland is a dog. Absolute dog. All right, where do we go now? D-line, safety could be an interesting spot. Kevin Winston makes a lot of sense, right? Now, where do the Saints go? That's where you got to ask yourself a question. What are the Saints going to do at 40 overall? That's a really interesting question. They went offensive line, so they could go quarterback, they could go wide receiver, they could go a bunch of different spots. I don't really think that affects where the Bears go. Could Donovan Ezeiruaku go to a team like the Bears? That could be interesting. Trey Amos could be an interesting spot for the Bears as well. Nic Scourton, he seems more of the Bears type of guy. I like Scourton's size, 6'4", 285. He goes to the Bears at 39 overall. Now, Saints, you're up on the board here. They could go running back. I think the running back could start to go here. They went offensive line. I think they could go quarterback here. I'm going Jalen Milroe or Will Howard. Where do you think we go? Saints go Will Howard. They go Jalen Milroe. I think Alabama boy from the South already. I think the Saints could get some juice going with Jalen Milroe at the quarterback spot. Now, up again is the Bears. Right, here's our pick so far. Colston Loveland, the tight end. Nic Scourton, the edge defender from Texas A&M. The Bears could go a bunch of different ways here. Adding another cornerback opposite Jalen Johnson could make some sense. Trey Amos is on the board. Ben Morrison. They could get younger at safety as well. So I'm going to do that. Kevin Winston Jr. goes to the Bears at 41. Now, 49ers fans, you're on the board. Actually, the Jets are on the board. Oh, yeah, the Jets. My bad. My bad, getting ahead of myself a little bit here. Jets are on the board. They went Armand Membu. They could go quarterback. They could go wide receiver. Someone like Alec Aireontae could make a lot of sense. Him and Jack Bech, bigger guys, talented guys. Omarr Norman-Lott, he could be very interesting for the Jets as well. But I think they need another outside wide receiver, man. Alec Aireontae is a big guy, 6'2", 210, really talented wide receiver, man. I like what he does. Drop rate under 10%, which I always like. Pretty good player. Not a great player, so I'm not sure if the Jets go there. They went offensive line, so maybe defensive line. Maybe you pair up a guy like Donovan Ezeiruaku with the Jets. That could be really interesting in round 2. Taking a look, Landon Jackson. I like his size, 6'7", 280. Could definitely be interesting for the Jets. Definitely interesting for the Jets. Savon Revel, Bradyn Swinson. I do like him as well. Coming off the edge, 6'4", 250. I do like that. Where do the Jets go, guys? They definitely need another wide receiver. So I'm taking a look at the wide receivers. I do like Jalen Noel. I like Jalen Royals. I think I might like Jalen Royals better than the other two guys. 6'2", 205. I'm going to go Jalen Royals, the wide receiver to the Jets. I like him better than, I think Alec is kind of one-dimensional. Same with Jack Bech. I'm not a big fan of him. All right, now, 49ers fans, you're up. They went Michael Williams, the edge defender. I think, a D tackle could be interesting. Michael Williams is kind of a tweener guy, 6'5", 265. He'll probably play a DN in that defense. The 49ers could go a ton of different spots. But I'm going Trey Amos. They need cornerback help desperately. I think they're going to like his size. Pretty good player. Ben Morrison also could be interesting for the 49ers. He's more of a man-to-man guy on the outside. I do love myself some Ben Morrison, right? So, I think they're going to go best corner on the board. I think Trey Amos can play. He could play zone. He could play man. He could do it all. I like that for the 49ers. Now, on the board, the Dallas Cowboys with one of the biggest head-scratchers of this draft. Tyler Booker, offensive lineman. They're going to go wide receiver here. I think they go Alec Aireontae probably. They want a bigger wide receiver, 6'2", 210. Cowboys fans might not be happy about that, but that's probably the way it's going to shake out. Colts, you're up 45 overall. Edge defender could be really interesting. Donovan Ezeiruaku, really, really talented guy. Even Ben Morrison, I like. Xavier Watts, the safety, could be very interesting to the Colts as well. I do like myself some Xavier Watts. They definitely need some safety help. They could go guard as well if they wanted to. Darius Alexander is a D lineman that I really, really like. Princely Umanmielen, a guy, super talented guy, 6'4", 255. Definitely some interesting guys. If they want to go linebacker, they can go Schlesinger or Knight. At this spot in the draft, D linemen are really interesting. For a guy like TJ Sanders, they went tight end. I'm thinking they go defense here. I think a run on these safeties is going to happen. Let's go Xavier Watts to the Colts at 45. Now, Rams fans, you're getting your first pick of the draft so far. 46 overall. Ben Morrison is still on the board. Rams get Ben Morrison. That's a no-brainer. I think that's a slam dunk pick for the Rams. I love that spot for the Rams. LA Rams get their guy in Ben Morrison. True man-to-man, outside corner, really talented guy. All right, Cardinals, you're up at 47. You got Walter Nolan. Great pick. Excellent pick by the Cardinals, man. I love that spot. So I could go wide receiver here. It could be really interesting for them. D-line, we got already, right? They could upgrade the guard spot. Cornerback is definitely a spot of need, for this roster. Savon Revel is on the board here, guys. I think his fall stops. I think he's going to recover from that injury, and this is exceptional value. This is a value pick here at 47 overall. I love that pick by the Cardinals. Dolphins fans, you're on the board. Probably my least favorite pick on day one. I like Kenny Grant. Don't get me wrong. But the Dolphins probably have the worst secondary in the NFL. Javon Holland's gone. They're going to trade Ramsey. They need to protect Tua. I don't know what the heck they're doing, right? So they got to address the safety position or cornerback here, right? You would think. Porter's on the board. Nick Emmanwori. I'm going Nick Emmanwori to the Dolphins. That's a great pick. Great value there. All right, Shamar Stewart. Excellent pick. Edge defender for the Bengals, right? They could use some guard help, some linebacker help. I want to keep going crazy on this defense, man. These running backs are just going to keep falling, right? We got our edge defender. They need D-line help really bad too. So I'm going to go Omarr, Norman-Lott. Just really, really juice up this front seven, man. Maybe go safety in the next round. I didn't like the value there. Seattle. We got our wish, Seattle Seahawks fans. We drafted Gray Zabel, the offensive lineman. We're up at 50 and 52 overall. So we get our pick of the litter, man. Edge defender. Guys, Donovan Ezeiruaku all day. Slam dunk that pick in. Woo! This is I still can't believe they drafted Johnny Barron over Omarion Hampton. My head was exploded when that happened. But they're going to go running back here. No doubt in my mind. I'm going TreVeyon Henderson. I think he fits the Broncos really well. I like Cam Skattebo. I think Skattebo or Henderson fit them, but I'm going to go Henderson there. That's the safer pick. Higher floor guy. Seahawks up again, right? We got Donovan Ezeiruaku, Gray Zabel. Adding another wide receiver to this mix could be really interesting as well. They did bring in Cooper Kupp, but Jackson Smith and Jigba, they could go another offensive lineman as well. Bech is available from TCU. He's like a tweener. He's like between a wide receiver and a tight end. Kind of give them some length on the outside. Something they don't have in this offense. I'm going to go Jack Bech to the Seahawks at 52. Now, Buccaneers surprised me going Emeka Egbuka in round one. So I think they're going to go D-back in this spot. Potentially linebacker here as well. Princely Umanmielen is on the board. He could be really interesting for the Buccaneers. In that 3-4 defense. Bradyn Swinson could be really interesting in this defense as well. 6'4", 250. I do like him in that spot. Demetrius Knight. They could add a linebacker here. 6'2", 245. I like his low missed tackle rate. 11%. Not as low as I would like it to be, right? Not a lot of value in the D-back room here at this selection. Mukuba's kind of a little bit of a reach here. They really could use some safety help. So you know what? I'm gonna reach a little bit. I'm gonna go Andrew Mukuba to the Buccaneers at 53. Packers, you're up. You got Matthew Golden. I think we go edge here. Landon Jackson's on the board. I don't know if he really fits that scheme. Bradyn Swinson on the board. I love that pick. Bradyn Swinson from LSU. Great pick for the Packers there at 54. Chargers get an excellent pick in Omarion Hampton, man. I absolutely love it. Dog mentality pick. Right. They could go D-line here, A guy like Darius Alexander could make a lot of sense for the Chargers. I really, really like Darius Alexander. Landon Jackson, he could make some sense as well. Chargers are really, really talented, but they do need some help possibly at tight end. So Elijah Arroyo's on the board. I think Harbaugh might go young here and go Mason Taylor. Get some more weapons for Justin Herbert. Okay, now, Bills fans, Maxwell Harrison Jr., I didn't necessarily love that pick. I thought there were better corners on the board. Harrison's got great speed, but I don't really like his tackling and his physicality, right? So, Bills fans, you're up. Edge defender, linebacker on the board. Darius Alexander could make some sense for Buffalo, man. I really, really like that play there. That could be interesting. Landon Jackson, another guy really talented. Princely Umanmielen on the board here. Bills in that 4-3 defense. I'm going to go Landon Jackson, the edge. I think he fits this scheme pretty good. Okay, next up, Panthers fans, you're on the board. We went Tet McMillan. So we got to go freaking defense here, man. We could go edge. That could be interesting there. We could go Darius Alexander. We definitely got to go defense here for the Carolina Panthers. Edge defender, D-back. I mean, the D-back value is just not great. A lot of the D-backs went early, right? I don't think they're going to reach on a guy like Ezra Thomas or one of these safeties here, right? So we need some help in the middle of this defense, right? So I'm going to go Darius Alexander. I love that pick. I think he's got good length, good size, good physicality. And now the Texans, you're on the board. They went Aireontae Ersery with their first pick in the draft, 34 overall in the second round. Right, we take a look at this defense. They could use another wide receiver. Really, really bad. They got Nico Collins. You can go maybe Trey Harris on the outside. That could be really interesting. Kyle Williams. I do like him. 6 foot 186 to the Texans. Could make some sense. I do like myself some Trey Harris, dude. Big physical wide receiver. They get one. Trey Harris goes to the Texans. Pair him up with Nico Collins. Formidable 1-2 punch there, guys. Ravens, you're on the board here. They went Malachi Starks. Him and Kyle Hamilton put together quite the tandem there, right? They could go edge defender. That could be interesting. A guy like Princely Umanmielen, he's on the board. Carson Schlesinger on the board. TJ Sanders on the board. Where do they go here? They could go a bunch of different places. They could go guard as well. They need an upgrade at the guard position. So interior offensive line, a guy like Tate Ratledge, he's on the board. I'm going to go Tate Ratledge to the Ravens at 59 overall. Man, with Mike Green on the board, I thought that was a slam dunk pick for the Lions, and they went Tyleik Williams. That kind of was a strange pick for me. 6'3", 327, D tackle. Maybe they go edge here. Princely Umanmielen is on the board. He's a really good edge defender. That could be interesting. JT Tuimoloau is really good as well. 6'5", 269. I think he could fit that mold. I'm going to go JT Tuimoloau for the Lions. Now, Commanders fans, you're on the board here. I thought they were going to go defense for sure, but they went offensive line. They're going to go edge here. Princely Umanmielen, best guy left on the board. I love that spot for him with the Commanders. Bills, now you are on the board. We got our cornerback. We got our edge defender. We're at our third pick here, guys. I think a linebacker, Demetrius Knight, is on the board here at 62. We're going to go defense heavy early. The offense is pretty good. Solid offensive line. They could go another wide receiver maybe a little later in this draft, but I like Demetrius Knight. Kyle Williams is on the board here. These running backs are just falling, man. I just think there's better value at some of these other positions, right? I think the Bills, Demetrius Knight, I like that pick there. Now, Chiefs fans, you're on the board here. I'm going to do it. Chiefs fans, you're getting Cam Skattebo here. I think he would be electric with Patrick Mahomes catching balls out of the backfield. I love this pick. This is a really interesting pick, guys. The Chiefs get Cam Skattebo. All right, Eagles fans, you're on the board. We went Jihad Campbell at the linebacker spot. TJ Sanders is on the board here. I think the Eagles might have to snag him. I think he would be really good in this defense for sure. But we could go Elijah Arroyo, the tight end from Miami. 6'4", 245, very, very talented guy. Jared Ivey's on the board. We could go corner. Darian Porter is on the board. Azariah Thomas on the board. CJ West, another guy I really, really like, Super talented guy, But man, the Eagles have a decision on their hand, but I think they're going to go TJ Sanders. He's the best guy on the board at a position of need. I think he could play in that 3-4 look, I think that's the way he could do it. Put him in that Milton Williams role, 6'4", 290. They're very similar size. I like that spot. And then we have a linebacker, and we got our D lineman. TJ Sanders goes to the Philadelphia Eagles, guys. That wraps up our second round mock draft. This is how it went in round 1. A lot of really interesting picks here. Eagles get Jahad Campbell. Josh Simmons to the Chiefs. What a steal that is. Crazy. Packers get Matthew Golden. Mukuba goes to the Buccaneers. That was a head scratcher. Kenneth Grant to the Dolphins. Booker, 12 and 13, blew my mind. Loveland goes early before Tyler Warren. That's an interesting pick as well. All right, guys, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. Peace.